In the early decades of Grand Prix racing, medical facilities were shockingly poor by modern standards.
But advances in car safety have dramatically reduced the risk of serious injury or death in a Formula One car.
When today's race begins, there'll be 6 mobile response teams with doctors, paramedics and firefighters based around the circuit. They can get to any incident around the track within 30 seconds.
At the medical centre, there'll be an orthopaedic surgeon, a consultant anaesthetist and a team of 6 paramedics. A medical helicopter is always available to fly and 2 extrication teams are always to hand.
And when your eyes are fixed on the front of the grid at the start, you may not even notice what's patiently waiting in the background. The medical car, powered by a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine, the Mercedes C63S perhaps best represents developments made in medical support since Formula One began. And it's driven by this man, former British Formula 3 champion Alan van der Merwe.
And in the passenger seat is the FIA's Chief Medical Delegate, Dr. Ian Roberts. Just talk us through your role on an F1 race weekend.
My role is to look after the driver in the first phase of the incident, to coordinate the rescue, to follow the first lap, and also then to be on standby at the end of the pit lane during the race.
You've been driving the medical car for 9 years, and presumably you have to get there pretty sharpish to any incident.
Yeah, I guess my job is to get Ian to an incident as quickly as possible, but also under any circumstances. So it's a balance of speed and calculating the risk.
Now, I know you guys are very well practiced in this, but we've rigged up something, a live simulation. Jeff is our unlucky driver who's put it in the wall here. How would you start the extrication process, Dr. Ian?
First of all, you need to assess the driver. It may be that he can get out himself, and if that's the case, then we'd encourage him to do so. We can see that he's had a fairly big hit. That indicates a hit of at least 15 G.
And then, of course, at the back, you've got the status of the battery pack here to tell you whether you can approach it or not.
Exactly. The red flashing light indicates that there's a system error, of which one of those errors may be that the car is electrically unsafe, in which case when you see the electrification team come in, they'll be wearing electrical safety gloves.
And what do you do with the medical car at this stage, Alan?
Generally, I mean, always when we can, we try and guard the scene. So if Ian's out of the car or if there's people around the car, we try and protect the scene with the medical car.
What I aim to do is give race control an assessment of the driver as soon as possible. Then they can make some decisions about continue the safety car, red flag the race. Charlie's waiting for that decision.
Let's say Jeff's injuries are life-threatening then. In this situation, what's your next step?
Okay, we've done the standard ABCs. We're confident that they're okay, but the driver, say, complains of a problem with his back or neck. We need a controlled extrication. That decision would have been made by the national doctor and myself. Extrication comes in, starts their work.
Okay, let's do that.
So who's coming in now, Ian?
This is the medical intervention team. The doctors are making his assessment. He's going to lift the visor, he's going to check on the driver. We need to get to the driver's head. We need to get a collar on, and that's all part of the extrication process.
I'm looking at this and wondering, with the halo on next year, how much harder your job's going to be.
It is going to be certainly more restricted, although we have carried out extrications with a halo in situ, and through just a very few modifications, it's possible to lift through the aperture. Of course, the other issue with the halo is if it becomes distorted, and we will have the ability to cut it.
Okay, so right now, where are we at? I mean, it looks like oxygen has been administered to Jeff. What's the process?
At the moment, they're just fixing the final straps for the extricatable seat, and in a moment, they'll be doing a lift.
You're aiming for an extrication time of what, 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
About 4 to 5 minutes. We're more concerned with the technique rather than the absolute time. So I guess efficiency is the key word.
Okay, so when the ambulance moves off, are you back into the car? Do you follow them back? Presumably, you won't be there on site.
I'm normally in the ambulance with the national doctor, and we'll go off to the medical centre under normal circumstances. Whether a further assessment's required there or off to hospital.
You were both there, tragic day back at Suzuka with Jules Bianchi. When you arrived on the scene, presumably you knew the severity of it straight away. How did it work for you that day? A very difficult day.
It was obvious from the start that it was a very serious injury. The medical team performed admirably. They worked very well together. Things were done in the correct sequence. His assessment and management were extremely good. Unfortunately, the outcome was the tragic end that it was.
Did the drivers ever come up to you and go, "You're the guys that start behind us on, thanks, appreciate what you do"? Do they know you're there?
Not quite.
Not quite, no.
No. we see a lot of them. We see Fernando a lot in the medical car, unfortunately, for reliability reasons. A few of them we have a bit of a rapport with, but most, I mean, to be honest, when I raced, I had no idea there was a medical crew there. It's just not in your mind, is it, when you turn up to a racetrack? You don't want to think about it.
You're like the 11th team in the pit lane, aren't you? You've got your mechanics, the full setup, the garage, everything. You test the car.
Yeah, we're always at the back, unfortunately, but yeah, it is. It's run as professionally as we can, really. I think in the older days it was a lot more casual. Sid used to just grab a local car and a local driver and just get on with it, but it's a well-run machine now.
Sid Watkins was a big part of that transformation, wasn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, he was the pioneer. There was very little available, and he built it up from virtually nothing. When he would arrive at circuits and find the medical centre was a room with a sink in the corner and maybe not even have running water, it came from that to what it is today. And it's been a gradual progression, and you know, it's extremely professional.